In the early 1700s, the winters across the Great Plains and the mountain regions of North America were feared as much as war or famine. European settlers kept journals of sudden storms that buried cabins in a matter of hours, while native nations passed down stories of blizzards that tested every ounce of knowledge carried from their ancestors. Survival in those storms was not guaranteed. Entire hunting parties could vanish into the white, and even seasoned travelers sometimes froze within sight of their own lodges. A single storm could drive temperatures below 30 degrees of frost while the wind howled unchecked across the open plains. Snow swallowed landmarks, erased the horizon, and smothered sound. Hunters who knew every bend of the river lost their way just a few steps beyond camp. In such conditions, your greatest enemy was not another tribe, not even the wild beasts, but the air itself, freezing and unrelenting, stealing warmth faster than any fire could give it back. The stakes were always the same without shelter. You would not live until morning. Frostbite spread faster than flames, and breath turned to ice inside your lungs. That is why the skill of raising a dome of saplings, covering it in hides or woven mats, and sealing it with snow was as vital as hunting or gathering food. Archaeologists still find traces of these shelters centuries later, and oral traditions confirm that survival often depended not on strength alone, but on the speed and certainty with which a community could build its refuge against the storm. If you enjoy these stories, a like or a gentle subscription means the world. It keeps these long journeys alive. Now settle deeper into your blankets. Let your breath slow, and together we'll slip into the journey together. The year is 1705, and winter settles with a ferocity remembered for generations. Stories say that dozens perished across the plains that year, caught unprepared when sudden storms turned the world into a white grave. You know this blizzard is only the beginning. Its first breath dusts your shoulders as the air turns raw, and already you can feel how thin the line is between shelter and death. Among your people, survival means more than warmth. It is proof that the ancestors' ways still hold, that the old methods of building and binding can protect against the sky's cruelty. Without that skill, every child's breath could vanish before dawn. The flakes begin as a soft scattering drifting through the trees, melting where they touch your skin, but the air sharpens, stinging your cheeks, frosting your hair. The horizon closes, the distant hills dissolve into grey, and you sense the storm pulling its cloak tighter around the earth. The temperature drops so fast you feel it in your bones, a ringing ache that makes your fingers clumsy. You gather branches in haste, knowing that what you carry now will decide how long you can endure. You push through brush, the sound of snow crunching beneath your moccasins, breath clouding in uneven bursts. Somewhere nearby a raven calls, its voice flat and distant as though carried from another world. The elders often say ravens warn of death, but sometimes they guide as well. You cannot be sure which this one is. Your arms fill with saplings and willow poles, thin but strong, bending without breaking. These will become the ribs of a lodge. Each piece you cut smells sharp, a tang of green wood rising even in the frozen air. The knife you hold bites unevenly, stone flakes hafted into bone, a tool your people shaped generations before. You imagine the thousands of hands that have made the same motions, stripping bark, slicing through fibers, binding survival into shape. The wind picks up, a whistle through branches that deepens to a roar. Snow slants sideways now, peppering your eyes, forcing you to squint. Your eyelashes freeze together. The sensation is oddly gentle at first, like a crust of salt forming across your face, but then it weighs heavy, dragging your lids. You rub at them with your sleeve, skin raw from wool and ice. You return to the camp where others wait. Children crouch by a faint fire, sparks flying dangerously in the gusts. One woman holds her infant inside a robe of bison hide, rocking gently, murmuring as if her voice alone could make walls appear. You kneel beside them, laying down your burden of poles. Already, hands reach out to help, quick and efficient. You work without words, for the wind steals speech, but each gesture is clear. Together you bend the poles, pressing their ends into frozen earth. They arch overhead, a fragile skeleton swaying with the gusts. You lash them with strips of sinew, pulling tight until your palms burn. The sinew creaks, then holds. Snow stings your scalp, sliding down your neck. Still you work because you must. Historical accounts describe such shelters, often called wickiup or wickiup by outsiders, as domes of bent wood covered in hides, bark, or woven mats. Some were temporary, others more permanent. Archaeologists still debate how much snow itself was used as insulation, though many oral traditions insist that mounding drifts against the walls turned cold into armor. You will soon discover the truth with your own hands. The covering comes next. Thick hides are hauled into place, their musky scent strong even in the icy air. You smell old smoke, animal fat, faint traces of summer grass still clinging to the fur. Each hide is draped carefully, weighted with stones, edges tucked and overlapped so no wind may slip through. Children crawl beneath, their laughter muffled, a small warmth inside the growing dark. Inside, the air shifts immediately. It is still cold, but it no longer claws at your chest with every breath. You strike flint against steel, sparks catching in dried moss and shredded bark. Smoke curls upward, searching for a seam in the roof. Firelight shivers across the hides, orange and gold. For a moment, the storm outside feels far away. You lie back, heart still racing from the labor, and listen. The wind roars, but muffled. Snow hisses against the roof, sliding down in waves. The infant fusses, then quiets when pressed closer to its mother's chest. Your own breath steadies, rising in rhythm with the crackle of fire. You feel the ache in your fingers, the soreness of shoulders worked raw, but you are alive. And still, a thought presses at the edge of your mind. What if the storm worsens? What if the poles bend too far, or the hides tear free? You close your eyes, imagining the walls bowing, the cold sweeping in like a flood. The uncertainty is always there, even now. Some say the ancestors can hear you in such moments. Perhaps they test your faith, or perhaps they only watch in silence. Your stomach growls, sharp and empty. You think of roasted venison, of marrow cracked from bones, of cornmeal porridge thick with berries. Tonight you have only dried strips of meat, stiff and smoky. You chew slowly, letting the salt sting your tongue, imagining flavors you cannot taste. Hunger hums through you, but at least it reminds you that you are alive. The fire shifts, sparks rising in a sudden draft. You watch them dance, glowing points against the hides, fading before they touch the roof. The warmth brushes your face, while cold lingers at your back. You curl closer to the heat, listening as the storm outside thickens. The sound of snow is endless, like sand poured through a giant hourglass, burying time itself. You drift in its rhythm, half alert, half lulled, waiting for what tomorrow brings. By dawn, the storm has not broken. It only shifts in tone, less raw, more whisper, though the snow still falls steady and thick. Records from early explorers describe days when the world seemed locked in a single color, white folding over white, until even the sun was no more than a pale disk. You open your eyes into that half-light, and it feels as though time itself has frozen. The fire burns low. Only a handful of embers glow red in the ash, tiny eyes staring up at you. Your body aches from the ground's hardness. Cold has crept into your limbs despite the hides. The shelter held, but your hunger gnaws sharper than frost. Without food, the warmth cannot last. This has always been the cruel measure. Storms devour not only heat but strength. You pull yourself upright, bones stiff, shoulders heavy. Outside, the wind sighs through seams in the lodge. It is quieter now, but dangerous still. Blizzards are often deceptive. Elders warn of the false pause when a storm lulls only to rise again with doubled force. But to wait too long is death. The memory of game, of tracks, of movement beyond the camp presses into your mind. Somewhere out there, beneath the frozen trees, Meat waits. Your breath fogs as you tie your belt tighter, pulling a robe of buffalo hide close around your chest. The smell of the fur is strong, musky, like earth after rain. You slip a bow over your shoulder, the string stiff in the cold, arrows ride in a quiver at your hip. Their stone tips wrap to keep out snow. Each feels heavier than it should, as though the storm has added weight to every tool. The entrance flap opens with a groan. Light floods in, not brightness, but a greyness that blinds. You step out into air that slices your face. Instantly, your lashes crust with frost again. The snow lies deep, waist-high in some places, sculpted into drifts that gleam like frozen waves. You sink with every step, lifting knees high, each movement a battle. Your breath comes in harsh bursts, scraping your throat raw. The world is silent, except for the squeak of snow beneath your moccasins. Even the river nearby seems gone, swallowed under ice and drift. Your ears strain for sound, hoof, paw, wing, but all you hear is your own blood pounding. And yet you know animals live within this silence. Deer press close to trees, rabbits tunnel into snow, wolves track along the edges of frozen streams. To find them you must think as they do. You pause by a stand of birches, their white bark peeling in curls. You touch one, rough against your palm. Hunters have long watched the behavior of birds in such storms. When they flutter low, game often lies beneath cover. But today the branches are bare, empty, the air too still. You move onward, each step carving through resistance. A memory rises as you walk. Your grandfather once spoke of a storm so thick he found himself inches from a bison before he saw it. The wind hides the world, he said, but the scent remains. You inhale deeply now through frozen nostrils. The air stings, burns your lungs, but within it, something faint, musk, animal, not human. You still yourself, straining. Tracks appear at the edge of a drift, faint depressions nearly erased by snow, each spaced wide apart. To deer, your pulse quickens. You kneel to touch them, the edges crumbling at your fingers, fresh enough to follow, though the trail is faint. You set off, head low, eyes fixed. Each step becomes rhythm. Crunch, exhale, crunch. The land dips into a hollow where the wind has scoured snow thin. There, among stunted willows, movement flickers. A deer stands, ribs showing sharp beneath its winter coat. Hunger gnaws at all creatures now. Its ears twitch, head lifting, eyes dark and wide. For a moment you both stand in the blizzard's muted silence, watching. You kneel slowly, pulling an arrow from the quiver. Fingers numb, clumsy, but steady enough. You draw the bowstring, muscles protesting the cold. The sound of the wind fades, your breath shallow, time stretches thin, and then the release. The arrow flies, vanishes into white, then strikes. The deer shudders, stumbles, collapses against the willows. Its breath hisses in short bursts, then stills. Your chest heaves, not from exertion, but from the enormity of the moment. A life ends, and with it your people's lives continue. You whisper words of thanks, soft, the way you were taught. Snow gathers already along the animal's flank. As though trying to claim it, you work quickly, drawing your knife, hands burning with cold as you cut. Blood steams against the frozen air, the smell metallic and sharp. Your stomach twists with hunger at the scent. You haul the meat onto a makeshift sled of branches, binding it with sinew. The load drags heavy through snow, each pull straining your back. The storm presses close, flakes stinging harder now, a reminder that the false pause is ending. You quicken pace, every step a fight. Wolves will smell the kill soon. Already, faint howls drift on the wind, distant but nearer than comfort allows. At last the lodge rises before you, half buried, smoke curling faintly from its top. Relief warms you more than the robe. You shout low and the flap lifts. Faces peer out, eyes wide, and hands rush to help you drag the sled inside. The sight of meat sparks whispers, laughter, tears, children's hands reach, eager. Inside, fire leaps as fresh wood is fed. The meat is laid out, strips cut, fat sizzling in a pot. The smell fills the lodge, thick and rich, overwhelming after days of hunger. You taste the first bite, juices scalding your tongue, salt and smoke mingling with iron. Warmth spreads through you, deeper than fire alone. Quirky detail lingers even here. Some say deer fat rubbed on the skin wards off frostbite, though whether this is true or only tale remains uncertain. Elders argue softly, laughing as they smear their hands, while others shake heads in doubt. Still, the gesture brings comfort, and perhaps that is protection enough. Night falls again, though the storm has not ended. Wind rattles the poles, snow sighs along the roof. Wolves howl faintly beyond, but inside, bellies fill, shoulders relax, voices murmur. You lie down, warmth heavy in your body, eyelids thick. Hunger's edge has dulled, and in its place comes drowsiness. You listen to the fire's crackle, the rise and fall of kinship voices, until sound and thought blur into sleep. By the third day of the storm, the blizzard shows no mercy. Travellers in later centuries would write of these tempests swallowing entire caravans. Some journals mention wagons discovered months later buried under snowpack so deep it looked like solid earth. Among your people, such storms are spoken of with the same weight as battles or famines. They are remembered for who survived and who did not. Snow presses higher against the walls, and the roof sags under its burden. Each creak is a warning. A lodge is only as strong as the skeleton beneath it, and the bones of this shelter must be rebuilt if they are to hold. Without constant repair, the roof could collapse, smothering fire and family alike in a single breath. The storm tests not only endurance but craft. You rise before dawn, fingers stiff, joints aching. Smoke stings your eyes as you crawl toward the flap. Outside, the sky is dark, indistinct from the ground, as though heaven and earth have blurred together. The air is bitter, each inhalation biting deeper into your chest. Snow climbs to your thighs, then to your hips, but you push forward, knowing poles must be found. You search along the tree line, where the wind has stripped drifts thin. Willows bend low here, their supple branches half frozen but not yet snapped. You cut carefully, the stone edge of your tool groaning as it presses into bark. Each slice releases the smell of green wood, a fleeting summer ghost amid winter's rule. Your fingers burn, then numb, as you strip branches clean. The load grows heavy, but you shoulder it back to camp. Every step is labor, your legs trembling as you trudge through waist-high snow. You stagger once, nearly falling, but steady yourself with the bundle. Behind you, the trail you carve vanishes almost instantly, snow refilling your passage as though erasing proof you were ever here. At the lodge, others wait, their faces pale in the dim light. You set down the poles, shaking frost from your hair. Words are brief. The cold steals too much energy for talk. Together you crawl inside, the heat of fire wrapping you like a sudden embrace. Work begins at once. The old poles are loosened, sinew cut, hides peeled back. Children hold torches while adults brace the structure. The fire is fed until flames roar, for without heat, fingers cannot tie or weave. You feel sweat bead beneath layers of hide, only to freeze when you step back into drafts near the seams. The new ribs rise slowly. You press them into the ground, arching each one overhead, binding them with strips of hide pulled taut until your arms tremble. The lodge begins to breathe again, its shape swelling outward, stronger, more resilient. The sound of sinew stretching is sharp, a high creak that echoes like music against the storm's base. One elder mutters as he works, recalling how his own father taught him to bend saplings over a fire's steam to make them supple. You imagine that scene? Smoke, steam, laughter, and wonder if these same poles will one day be remembered in another storm tale. Outside, the wind slams against the walls. Snow packs into gaps, sealing them tight. What seems like weakness becomes strength. The heavier the drifts, the more insulation they give. Some historians later debated whether snow was an enemy or ally, but here you feel the truth, both at once. Cold builds walls against itself. Inside, repairs continue. Women stretch hides, sewing with bone needles, patching tears with sinew thread. Each stitch is precise, quick, survival sharpened into muscle memory. Children crawl beneath the renewed frame, laughter muffled, their bodies warm from play. Their joy cuts through the tension like sunlight through clouds. Quirky knowledge lingers in your mind. Some say rubbing fish oil on hides made them more resistant to wet snow. Others doubt this, claiming the smell lured predators. The truth is uncertain, but tonight as hides are rubbed with grease saved from autumn hunts, the air is thick with it, pungent and strong. Whether protection or risk, it is all that can be done. The rebuilt shelter grows sturdy. Shadows ripple across the curved walls, firelight shimmering like water. You step back to admire the dome, breathing hard, chest tight from effort. It feels alive, like a creature crouched against the storm, ribs braced, hide stretched. But fear still lingers. Each creak of the poles makes your heart skip. You imagine the weight above, tons of snow pressing down an invisible beast. You glance at your kin, their faces flushed from heat, eyes glimmering with hope, and know that failure is not an option. If the skeleton breaks, the body within will break too. You sink to your knees, exhaustion flooding you, hands blistered, skin cracked, muscles trembling. Yet there is pride here too, pulsing beneath the pain. You touch the frame, rough and solid, and whisper thanks. Perhaps the ancestors here. The storm outside deepens again, wind shrieking like voices lost. Wolves howl faintly beyond, closer now, drawn to warmth and smell. You picture them circling, eyes glowing in the dark, their hunger as sharp as yours once was. The walls shudder, but hold. Sparks leap upward, smoke curling through small vents, escaping into the blizzard. Children huddle near their mothers, drifting into sleep. Elders lean against walls, murmuring softly, voices carrying fragments of story. One recalls a winter when the snow never melted until May. Another speaks of a lodge crushed, survivors digging free with bare hands. Some facts blur with myth, yet all hold weight. You listen, half dreaming, letting words weave with the crackle of fire. The night stretches long. Each hour you rise to check bindings, fingers tracing knots, palms pressed to poles. The repetition steadies you, a rhythm against fear. Fire hisses, hides rustle, sleepers breathe. The storm rages, but within these bones life endures. When at last you lie down, fatigue drapes over you like another hide. Your body aches, but your spirit steadies. The shelter stands, its ribs strong, its heart warm. You close your eyes to the sound of snow hissing against walls, breath slowing, comfort blooming in the midst of storm. For countless generations, fire has been the line between survival and oblivion. Archaeologists describe charred patches of earth ringed by stone as some of the oldest evidence of human presence on the continent. Fires were not only heat and light, but also signal, medicine, and memory. In the deep winters of the plains and forests, no shelter was complete until smoke began to rise within it. Without that living flame, even the strongest lodge was only a husk. Yet fire was as fragile as it was essential. Snow could smother sparks in an instant. Wind might draw flames out of reach, or scatter embers dangerously across hides. Elders warned children never to treat fire carelessly, for it had two faces, savior and destroyer. A single mistake could turn safety into ruin. But without it, your body would stiffen, breath would slow, and the storm would claim you quietly before dawn. Now in the heart of the blizzard, fire is your only hope. The rebuilt frame of the lodge holds firm, its ribs strong, hides pulled taut, snow mounded thick along its walls. But inside, the air hangs damp and cold, breath clouding with each exhale. You crouch low, gathering what little tinder remains. Strips of dried bark curl in your hand, brittle and pale. Moss, saved from summer, crumbles easily, smelling faintly of earth. You arrange them carefully, cupping them like a bird's nest. Flint meets steel. Sparks leap, bright, fleeting, gone. Again and again until one lands true, biting into moss. You blow gently, lips close, breath warm, smoke tendrils rise, delicate as hair, and then the flame blooms, tiny but alive. Orange edges curl around bark, licking upward. The smell sharpens instantly, resin and char mingling, a scent as old as humanity. Children clap softly, muffled by hides. Elders lean closer, faces lined with firelight. The blaze grows, fed by thin twigs, then thicker sticks, then logs. Each addition feels like a victory. The warmth crawls outward, pushing against cold that has seeped into every muscle. Soon the crackle fills the shelter, steady like a heartbeat. Smoke gathers above, swirling in the curved roof. Some seeps through seams, some drifts downward, stinging eyes and lungs. You cough, but endure. It is a small price for life. Your hair smells of wood smoke, your clothes of grease and ash. But comfort outweighs discomfort. The first smoke of the storm marks the turning point. The lodge breathes now, and so do you. Outside, the wind rages still, snow pelting against walls with a hiss like sand. But inside, light flickers warm, gold painting faces, shadows leaping across curved walls. For a moment you forget the storm's teeth. Fire creates its own world, its own rhythm, separate from the chaos beyond. You sit close, stretching hands toward heat. Fingers thaw painfully, burning with pins and needles. You rub them together, flexing, shaking, until the ache lessens. Beside you, a child presses tiny palms forward, mimicking your gesture, eyes wide at the way warmth flows invisibly through the air. Her laugh, quiet and surprised, mingles with the fire's crackle. The meat from the hunt is skewered now. Strips hung on willow frames above the flames. Fat drips into the fire, sizzling, sending up sharp smoke that makes mouths water. The scent fills the lodge, rich and heavy, mingling with the musk of hides and the tang of damp wool. Hunger sharpens every smell, every sound. Your stomach twists, but the anticipation steadies you. Food is coming, warmth is here. One elder tells of a storm long ago when a careless ember caught on a robe. Flames spread faster than hands could beat them down, and the family had to flee into the blizzard. They survived, barely, but carried scars of frostbite for the rest of their lives. His words are warning and memory both, spoken into the smoke. You glance at the hides above, aware of their fragility, and keep watch. Curious detail drifts into your thoughts. Some oral traditions speak of carrying fire from one shelter to another, glowing coals wrapped in moss or bark, kept alive for days. Scholars debate whether this was truly common, but in the dim lodge you picture it, embers carried like sacred heartbeats across snowbound plains. The idea seems as real as the sparks dancing before you. You lean back, body warm now, eyes heavy. The firelight plays tricks. Sometimes the smoke swirls into shapes, faces, animals, shifting too quickly to hold. You blink, and they vanish, but the impression lingers as though the ancestors themselves watch through the haze. The storm pushes harder, wind shrieking through seams, rattling poles. Snow slides down the roof with soft thumps. Each time your chest tightens, but the walls hold. The fire glows steady, its warmth wrapping you like an embrace. Sleep pulls at the edges of your mind, but duty keeps you alert. You stir the logs, feed more wood, adjust meat as it cooks. Flames flare, dim, flare again, alive in their own rhythm. Hours pass this way. Heat grows thick, making the air heavy. Sweat beads on your brow, trickling down your spine. Even as the cold gnaws at your back where the fire's reach fades, you shift closer, then farther, seeking balance. The duality of winter, freeze in one breath, sweat in the next. At last, food is ready. Meat browned, edges crisp, fat glistening. You tear a piece with your teeth, juices scalding, salt sharp, smoke clinging. It fills your mouth, your chest, your whole body. Energy surges back into limbs, fatigue dulled by nourishment. Around you, voices hum with relief, laughter returning faintly, soft as snowflakes. The fire burns on, endless in its motion. Embers glow, coals shift, ash drifts upward. You watch, entranced, half dreaming. Outside, wolves howl faintly, their voices rising and falling with the wind, but they do not breach the circle of firelight. Inside, the world is contained, fragile but whole. When at last you lie back, eyelids heavy, the smoke curls above like a veil. The fire's warmth lingers on your skin, even as you drift. Each crackle, each hiss is a lullaby, ancient and familiar. You surrender to it, body slack, breath slow, safe for now in the glow of first smoke. Long before explorers wrote their journals, native nations understood a strange paradox. The very snow that threatened to bury you could also save you. Later historians noted how lodges pressed by drifts grew warmer inside, insulated by the same substance that froze the skin raw outside. Some records claim families would deliberately shovel snow against their shelters, thickening the walls until they became fortresses of white. Others argue this memory is half myth, exaggerated in retelling. Yet tonight, as the storm deepens, you discover the truth with your own hands. The wind has risen again, shrill and relentless. The lodge rattles, poles creaking like tired bones. Fire roars inside, but the cold presses close at every seam. You can feel it slipping through cracks, brushing your back with invisible fingers. The hides rustle, edges lifting where stones have shifted. Children whimper, burrowing deeper into robes. You know the walls must be sealed, or all this warmth will bleed into the storm. You step outside, breath torn away instantly by the gale. Snow lashes your face, each flake a needle. The ground is no longer ground, but a shifting ocean of white. You sink knee-deep, then waist-deep, every step a struggle. Yet you carry only your arms and your will. No tools needed here, just snow itself. You crouch low, scooping handfuls, pressing them along the lodge wall. The flakes compress, clinging together, forming slabs that harden in the wind. Your gloves stiffen with ice, fingertips aching, but you continue, circling slowly. Each armful you pack against the hides feels like another heartbeat secured, another breath defended. Inside, muffled voices encourage you. Children laugh faintly as lumps of snow bulge inward. Their joy steadies your rhythm. Soon others crawl out to join you, each carrying heaps of snow, pressing them against the frame. The work becomes ritual. Scoop, press, pat, scoop, press, pat. The sound of it blends with the storm's roar until you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. The lodge begins to change. No longer only wood and hide, it grows a shell of frozen armor, snow piles against walls, rising chest high, then shoulder high. The wind, once an enemy, now becomes an ally, blowing drifts tighter, smoothing seams, filling every gap. For the first time you feel the storm working with you rather than against you. Quirky traditions whisper through memory. Some say children were told to lick the packed snow, to make it listen and bind harder. A playful superstition more than science. You recall such stories now, smiling faintly as you pat another mound into place. Whether truth or joke, the snow clings firmly, and that is enough. When you crawl back inside, the difference is immediate. The air feels stiller, softer. The fire's heat spreads wider, no longer tugged outward by drafts. Smoke lingers longer, curling lazily, but the warmth outweighs the sting. Your skin prickles, thawing in the steadiness of enclosed air. You exhale slowly, relief unfurling with your breath. The elder closest to the fire nods knowingly. Snow is not only death, he murmurs. It can be life too. His words settle like embers in the hush, a reminder that balance exists even in cruelty. Yet doubt lingers. You know snow is heavy and weight can crush. Archaeologists argue even now whether lodges collapsed under their own insulation. Stories of families trapped beneath. The thought needles. You what if these walls become tombs instead of shields? You glance upward, half expecting to see the roof sagging. But the poles hold, the bindings creak but do not give. For tonight, trust outweighs fear. Around you, life stirs. Children chase each other around the fire's circle, their shadows leaping like spirits. Women mend robes, the thread glinting briefly in firelight. Men sharpen tools, blades glimmering, sparks falling as stone scrapes against stone. The storm is outside now, muffled, distant. Inside, the world contracts into a bubble of warmth and sound. You sit near the entrance, listening. Snow still hisses against the walls, a steady whisper like water rushing unseen. The rhythm is soothing in its own way, constant, endless. It reminds you of waves, though you have never seen the sea, only stories brought by traders. You wonder if the ocean sounds like this, fierce yet calming, terrible yet protective. Hunger gnaws again, but less cruelly now that your belly holds meat. You tear another strip, chewing slowly, savouring salt and smoke. The taste lingers, comforting in its repetition. Fat crackles in the fire, spitting sparks. The smell clings to your clothes, your hair, your skin, until you are part of the lodge itself, bound by scent and smoke. Night deepens. The fire dims, embers glowing low. Still the lodge holds steady, snow-packed thick, air warmer. You lie back, feeling hides beneath you, poles curving overhead. The snow's weight presses outward, but it feels less like danger now, more like a blanket spread by the earth itself. You close your eyes, listening to the muted world. The storm still rages, but here, within snow and hide, you are cocooned. Each breath rises in rhythm with the fire's glow, each exhale a sigh into safety. For the first time in days, sleep comes not from exhaustion but from peace. Not all storms are endured alone. Oral traditions speak of families converging during the deepest blizzards, binding their lodges together for warmth and for spirit. European observers noted with surprise that some camps doubled in size during harsh weather, as scattered hunters or wandering groups found their way into shelter that was not their own. To survive a winter meant more than skill with wood and hide. It meant community, the weaving of lives beneath one roof. The storm has raged for days now. Snow covers the world so completely that direction itself has vanished. Yet sound travels strangely in this muffled land. A faint call reaches your ears, half drowned by the wind but unmistakable. A human voice, low and ragged. You pause, straining. Again the sound comes, carried between gusts. Someone is out there. You rise, pulling your robe close, breath sharp in your chest. At the entrance, snow tumbles in. As you lift the flap, the blizzard lashes your face. A wall of white, but beyond it a shape moves, staggering. You step out, feet sinking deep, eyes stinging. The figure lurches closer. A man, face rimmed with frost, arms carrying a child bundled in hides. Behind him stumbles a woman, clutching another child's hand. They collapse near the entrance, too weak to speak. You shout for help, voice nearly lost in the gale, but the flap opens and hands reach out, pulling them inside. The sudden warmth wraps around them like a miracle. Children cry softly, women murmur, elders shuffle aside to make space. The newcomers shiver uncontrollably, but their eyes flutter open, alive. Their story comes slowly. Between breaths, their own lodge collapsed 2 nights ago, snow-breaking poles crushing hides. They dug free, but the wind drove them into blindness. They wandered, guided only by memory, until the smoke from your lodge, thin but steady, led them here. It was chance, or perhaps destiny, that saved them. You watch as food is pressed into their hands, warm broth lifted to cracked lips. The smell of meat and smoke fills the air, heavy with comfort. The children eat greedily, tears streaking soot-stained faces. Their mother strokes their hair, whispering thanks. Their father sits silent, head bowed, breath ragged. He does not need words. His presence alone tells the weight of their journey. The lodge feels smaller now, yet fuller. Bodies crowd close, firelight brushing dozens of faces. Breath thickens the air, rising in white clouds that mingle like spirits. Hides are shifted, robes spread, children tucked against new laps. The boundaries between families dissolve. Everyone becomes kin under the blizzard's law. A moment of quiet comes, broken only by the crackle of fire. Then an elder begins to hum, a low, steady sound rising and falling like wind itself. Others join, voices weaving together, soft but strong. The newcomers close their eyes, listening, their trembling easing. Song carries warmth deeper than fire, binding hearts where wood and hide cannot. Outside, the storm pounds on, but inside, laughter grows. Children whisper to one another, pointing at shadows on the wall. A woman tells a tale of a snow spirit who tries to trick travelers by whispering their names in the gale. The little ones lean closer to the fire, eyes wide, half afraid, half thrilled. Their giggles echo through the lodge, lightening even the heaviest hearts. Quirky customs surface as the night deepens. One child pokes a stick into the snow-packed wall, claiming it lets the storm breathe. Another insists the lodge groans in thanks when pressed with more snow. Scholars centuries later might dismiss such notions as childish fancy, but in this moment they carry truth. Every sound, every gesture feels alive. You glance around at the crowded space. Bodies press shoulder to shoulder, warmth radiating like another fire. The smell of sweat mingles with smoke and hides, pungent but comforting. Your own skin prickles with heat, a strange contrast to the memory of cold just beyond the walls. Survival has become collective. Each breath you take feels shared. The father who arrived earlier stirs at last, voice hoarse. He speaks of gratitude, of debts repaid when spring comes. No one answers with promises. None are needed. Hospitality is not barter here, but law older than any treaty. When storms rage, every life saved is an offering to the ancestors, a duty fulfilled. Yet unease lingers. The storm outside has not lessened. If anything, the wind has grown sharper, shaking poles, sifting snow through seams. With so many inside, the air grows heavy. Smoke thick, you cough, eyes watering but endure. Better stinging lungs than frozen silence. You help tend the fire, feeding logs, adjusting hides to vent smoke. The work steadies you, keeps fear at bay. Each spark feels like a guardian, each flame a defiance of the storm. Around you voices murmur, soft but constant. The lodge has become a village in miniature, pulsing with life against the white void beyond. Hours slip by unnoticed. You lose track of time. Was it midnight or dawn? The storm erases all markers. Yet within the lodge, rhythms persist. Laughter, coughs, the steady rise and fall of breath. Fatigue drapes over you, but you resist, guarding the fire. Outside, wolves cry faintly, their voices braided with the wind, but the sound does not pierce the warmth here. At last, exhaustion takes hold. You sink down among kin and strangers alike, pressed close, wrapped in robes heavy with smoke. The storm continues its endless song, but inside you are no longer alone. The weight of bodies, the rise and fall of shared breath lulls you into rest. Survival is no longer yours alone. It belongs to all gathered here, bound beneath one roof, beneath one storm. When explorers in later centuries wrote of the Great Plains in winter, They often described a strange silence after storms, how the world seemed buried under layers of stillness as thick as the snow itself. Some accounts mention villages nearly invisible, only the faint curl of smoke betraying life beneath the drifts. To wake in such a morning was both a blessing and a warning. The storm had passed, but its weight remained, pressing down on every roof, every breath. You wake to that silence now. The storm's howl is gone. In its place lies a heavy hush, so profound it makes your ears ring. The lodge is dim, and the fire burned low to glowing embers. Breath rises in soft plumes, dozens of them mingling and vanishing in the shadows. Around you, bodies shift in sleep. Children curled against mothers, elders slumped against hides, the newcomers resting at last without trembling. For the first time in days, no one stirs to stoke flames or mend walls. But the stillness carries danger. You hear it in the groan above, the subtle creak of poles under weight. Snow presses hard against the roof, a silent enemy crouched on every side. If it is not relieved, the shelter itself could collapse, burying fire, bodies, and breath in a suffocating instant. You rise slowly, muscles aching, and crawl toward the entrance. The flap resists, frozen stiff. You push harder, and a wall of white pours inward, cascading across hides and embers. Sparks leap, hissing, smoke surges. Children cry out. Startled awake, you dig quickly, hands clawing, clearing a gap. Cold air floods in, sharp as a knife. It steals your breath, but it is better than suffocation. The lodge exhales in relief. You step outside, and the world takes your breath entirely. The storm has buried everything. Snow drifts rise higher than your chest, sculpted into waves frozen mid-crash. Trees stand only as white mounds, branches hidden. The horizon is gone, the land erased. Even the river lies silent, smoothed flat as polished stone. The sky above is pale, washed out, as though dawn and noon have blended. For a moment, you cannot move. The silence is so vast it feels like a sound itself, pressing against your ears. You stamp your foot just to hear something, the crunch sharp and startling. Your exhale curls into the air, the only motion in a world otherwise still. You turn back to the lodge, half buried, only its smoke hole showing clear. The snow has become a second roof, pressing low. You claw at it, freeing space for air, hands burning from cold. Others emerge to help, their robes dusted white, their voices hushed, as though afraid to disturb the silence. Together you dig trenches, opening paths around the lodge, piling snow aside. Quirky detail drifts into your mind. Some elders said silence after a storm meant spirits walked close, listening. Children were told not to shout or laugh too loudly, or they might attract attention. You remember such warnings now, and though you know not whether they are truth or tale, your own voice lowers without thought. The hush feels sacred. The work is exhausting. Snow clings heavy. Your arms ache. Your chest heaves. Yet slowly the lodge rises from its prison. Smoke curls freely again, thin and grey against the pale sky. Inside, the fire brightens with fresh wood, warmth spreading once more. Relief hums through the air, though words remain scarce. You sit on the edge of the trench, breath ragged. The silence stretches still, unbroken by bird or beast. Even the wolves are quiet, their howls swallowed. You wonder if the storm has driven them deep into the forest, or if they too crouch beneath drifts, waiting. Time itself seems frozen, each moment stretched like ice across a river. Inside, children play softly, their laughter muffled, respectful of the strange quiet. Women hang meat above the fire, the smell drifting rich and heavy. Men check weapons, sharpening edges dulled by frost. Life resumes, careful, deliberate. Yet everyone glances upward often, as though expecting the roof to groan again, the silence to shatter. You think of records left by missionaries who wrote of entire encampments buried, only faint movements betraying life below. Some claimed people carved tunnels through snow to neighbouring lodges, creating hidden worlds beneath the drifts. Whether true or not, you feel the weight of those stories now, crouched beneath a ceiling of frozen white. The day passes without change. The sky remains pale, the world still hushed. Even fire crackles softly, dampened by the snow's embrace. Fatigue seeps into your bones, deeper than hunger or cold. It is the weariness of endless whiteness, of time without measure. You blink often, struggling to keep eyes open, lulled by monotony. As night approaches, the silence deepens further. Stars appear faintly through the pale sky, their light cold and distant. The air is sharp, colder than before, frost biting at your nostrils with every breath. You huddle closer to the fire, robe pulled tight, yet the cold creeps in regardless, patient and steady. The lodge settles into sleep again, bodies pressed together, warmth shared, breaths rising in unison. Outside, the snow holds its vigil, heavy and silent. You close your eyes, ears ringing with the absence of sound. The silence feels endless, stretching across night, across memory, across time itself. For centuries, storms were more than weather. They were teachers. Early ethnographers recorded how elders in winter camps used blizzards as moments to pass on memory, telling stories that explained both the natural world and the human place within it. Some tales warned, some comforted, some blurred into myth. Archaeologists still debate where memory ended and legend began, but inside a lodge heavy with snow, when the wind muffled the outside world, the line between the two mattered less. The night deepens, firelight flickering across hides. Children stir restlessly, caught between sleep and fear. The storm's silence lingers, pressing against the lodge walls like a second skin. Into that hush, an elder clears his throat. His voice is low, worn with years, yet steady. The fire snaps, and everyone leans closer. He begins with a storm from his youth, so fierce that even the bison stampeded blind, their hooves churning snow into waves taller than men. He describes how his family built tunnels between lodges, a hidden village beneath white walls. You picture it as he speaks, glowing passages lit by torches, children crawling through laughter, life continuing underground, as if the earth itself had swallowed them whole. Scholars would later argue such tunnels were unlikely, the effort immense, but here, in the elder's words, they are real, alive. His tale shifts, blending into older memory. He speaks of a snow spirit, a pale woman who walks the plains in storms. Her breath is the wind, her hair the falling flakes. She tests those who wander too far, whispering their names in voices of kin, luring them into blindness. Only those who ignore the call survive. The children shiver, pressing closer to their mothers. One covers her ears as if to block the imagined sound. You feel the story settle into you like a seed. The storm outside suddenly seems more than air and snow. Each gust might carry voices. Each silence might hold presence. You glance at the flap, half expecting to see a figure beyond, yet only the faint hiss of snow answers. Another elder adds his voice, telling of ancestors who survived winters when game vanished. They boiled leather into broth, chewed bark until their teeth cracked. Some say they called on animals for help, wolves leading them to deer, ravens to carrion. Were these truths or hopeful dreams passed into story? The elders do not separate them. For those listening, truth is not measured by records but by survival carried forward. A child interrupts, asking if the snow spirit is here now. Laughter ripples softly, but the elder nods gravely. Always, he says. She walks whenever storms hide the stars, but she cannot enter where fire burns strong, where voices join together. The fire pops as if in agreement, sending sparks upward. The children relax, eyes glimmering with relief. You lean closer to the warmth, the smoke curling upward, carrying whispers of its own. The smell of resin mixes with hides, pungent and sweet. Your eyes sting, watering, but you do not move. The rhythm of voices, the rise and fall, lulls you into half-dreams. You see images within the smoke, women of snow, wolves with glowing eyes, ancestors standing tall against storms. The line between hearing and imagining blurs. Quirky detail surfaces. Some traditions tell of elders placing a coal in snow, watching how it melted to predict storm length. Others say the crackle of fire foretold whether winds would grow or fade. Tonight, every spark feels like a sign. Each hiss seems to carry meaning. You wonder what message lies hidden in this fire's voice. The elders continue, weaving memory into lesson. They speak of gratitude, how even in hunger, even in cold, survival was gift. They remind the young to respect snow not as enemy but as power. Without it, rivers would vanish, animals would die, the earth would thirst. The children listen wide-eyed, absorbing not only stories but a way of seeing. As the hours stretch, voices soften, some slip into chants, rhythmic and low, words older than any record. The sound thrums through your chest, steady as heartbeat. Others hum along, eyes closed, swaying gently. The lodge becomes more than shelter. It is a vessel of memory, carrying generations through the storm. Outside, the silence remains unbroken. The snow spirit, if she walks, does not enter. Perhaps the elders' voices keep her at bay. Perhaps she listens too, curious at the stories told of her. You do not know, but as you drift between waking and dreaming, you feel less alone. The storm is vast, but so is memory, and it surrounds you just as fully. At last, the fire burns low, embers glowing faint. The elders' voices fade into quiet. Children sleep soundly, their faces soft in the dim light. Adults rest against walls, breathing slow. You lie back, head heavy, eyes closing. The whispers linger still, curling in your mind like smoke. You dream of tunnels glowing beneath snow, of spirits walking through storms, of ancestors bending saplings into domes. The stories fuse with your own life, inseparable now. When you wake, you will not know if they were told to you, or if you lived them yourself, perhaps both. The lodge exhales with you, hides rustling faintly as wind presses. Outside, the snow holds its silence. Inside, the whispers of the old ones remain, echoing through fire, through memory, through you. Long before maps and surveys, rivers were the roads of this land. They carried hunters in canoes during the summer, and guided travellers by their banks in the winter. Yet in the coldest seasons, rivers became both friend and peril, frozen bridges that could bear the weight of men and bison, or treacherous glass that shattered without warning. Early explorers wrote of sleds rushing across ice as smooth as mirrors, and also of lives swallowed by sudden cracks. Among your people, rivers in winter were approached with reverence, each step a gamble measured in breath. Now hunger gnaws again. The venison shared days ago has thinned, and the children's stomachs rumble even as they sleep. You know that beneath the frozen river lies fish, sluggish but alive, their bodies storing fat that could keep you through the storm. To reach them means risking the ice, but without trying, bellies will remain empty. The choice is not really a choice at all. You pull your robe tight, breath steaming in the dim light, and gather tools. A bone-tipped spear, a bundle of sharpened sticks, and a stone adze for cutting. Others stir, watching silently as you prepare, their faces aligned with worry. But they do not stop you. They know the necessity. An elder presses a charm into your hand, a carved piece of antler, etched with lines said to mimic ripples. For steady footing, he whispers, whether protection or comfort, you accept it. The river lies half a mile beyond camp, hidden beneath drifts. You trudge through waist-deep snow, each step sinking with a crunch that echoes in the stillness. The world is pale, endless, sky and earth blending into one. Trees line the path in skeletal ranks, their branches crusted white. Breath burns in your lungs, your chest tight. Yet the thought of food draws you onward. At last, the forest parts to reveal the river. It is a flat expanse, gleaming under thin daylight. Snow has swept from parts of its surface, exposing ice clear as glass. You crouch near the bank, pressing a hand against it. The surface feels solid, but you know better than to trust appearances. Ice can hide weakness beneath beauty. You step cautiously onto the river, weight shifting slowly. The ice groans faintly, a deep moan rising from beneath. It vibrates through your bones, a reminder of the water moving unseen below. You pause, listening. Silence returns, and you continue inching toward the center where the current slows. Each step is deliberate, your heart pounding louder than the creaks around you. When you reach a likely spot, you kneel, adze in hand. The first strike rings sharp, echoing across the frozen plain. Ice splinters fly, cold needles stinging your cheeks. You strike again and again, each blow reverberating. At last a crack opens, water bubbling darkly. Steam rises faint, carrying the smell of minerals, damp and earthy. The contrast is jarring, life hidden beneath death's mask. You crouch lower, spear ready, the water shivers, shapes flickering within. Fish drift lazily, pale bellies glinting. You hold your breath, muscles taut, waiting. A shadow slides near. With a sudden thrust, you drive the spear downward. The tip pierces, resistance surges, and then you pull upward triumphant. A fish writhes, scales flashing. Its body is heavy in your hands, slippery and cold. Relief floods you. One fish will not feed all, but it is a beginning. You strike again, patience your weapon. Hours pass in measured rhythm. Wait, strike, pull, your body stiffens, fingers numb, shoulders aching, but the pile of fish grows. Their silver forms glisten against snow, steam rising faintly as they freeze. Quirky practices whisper back. Some hunters chewed pine needles while fishing, believing the sharp scent drew prey upward. You recall the tale, though whether truth or fancy you cannot know. Still, you tuck a needle between your teeth, its resin bitter, and wait. When the next fish surfaces, you smile despite yourself. But danger stirs. A sharp crack splits the silence, long and jagged. The ice beneath you shudders, water surging. Your heart leaps, body freezing in place. Another crack splinters outward, echoing like thunder. For a moment you imagine the surface giving way, the river swallowing you into blackness. Breath hitches, vision narrowing. Then slowly the sound fades. The ice holds for now. You retreat, dragging your catch to the bank, muscles trembling from fear and effort. Relief washes over you as solid earth meets your feet. The fish glitter in a heap, salvation in silver form. You bind them with rope, hoisting them onto your back. The load is heavy, but its weight is comfort, not burden. The walk back is slower, legs quivering with fatigue, yet every step is steadied by the thought of faces waiting, of mouths fed. The forest greets you with its hush, snow falling in lazy flakes now. The storm has loosened, though cold lingers sharp. When you reach the lodge, voices rise in astonishment. Children rush forward, eyes wide at the gleaming fish. Hands help you unload, laying them near the fire. The smell of roasting begins soon after, rich and oily, different from venison but just as welcome. Fat pops hissing on coals, sending up smoke that clings to hair and hides. You taste the first bite, flesh tender, juices warm. The flavor spreads across your tongue, filling your chest with strength. Around you, laughter grows, hunger dulled at last. Even the newcomers smile, their children eating greedily, cheeks flushed with life. An elder nods at you, eyes glimmering. The river gives, he says simply. His words carry both gratitude and warning. For tomorrow it may take. That night, you lie close to the fire, the smell of fish lingering in the air, the memory of cracks in the ice echoing in your bones. You dream of rivers flowing beneath snow, dark and alive, carrying both danger and salvation. The sound of water lingers as you drift into sleep, a whisper beneath the silence of the storm. For as long as stories have been told, wolves have haunted winter nights. Some accounts from missionaries and trappers describe entire packs shadowing travelers, their eyes glowing red in the torchlight. Among your people, wolves are more than threats. They are teachers, symbols of kinship and endurance. Yet hunger changes all creatures. When storms stretch long and food runs thin, even teachers bare their teeth. That evening, after the fish has been eaten and the children drift towards slumber, the silence outside breaks. At first it is only a single note, low and drawn out, rising through the snow like smoke. A howl, then another answers, and another, weaving into a chorus that chills the marrow. The voices seem everywhere, above, behind, beneath the very earth. The children stir, eyes wide. The fire pops and sparks leap upward, as if startled too. You sit upright, hand instinctively seeking your spear. The sound carries closer, circling. You can picture them out there, grey forms slipping between drifts, paws silent on snow, noses lifted to catch scent of fish and venison lingering on the air. The lodge walls feel thin suddenly, hides no stronger than leaves. You glance upward, listening to the groan of poles, a fragile barrier between warmth and the hunger pressing close. Elders murmur quietly. One tells of a winter long past when wolves dug beneath a lodge, drawn by scent. The people beat them back with firebrands, sparks scattering into the storm. Some claim wolves never truly left, circling camps for generations. Remembering, whether truth or tale, you feel the weight of those words now. The howls swell, then pause. The silence that follows is worse. Every breath seems too loud. Even the crackle of fire feels dangerous, as if announcing your presence. You hold still, listening for the faintest sound, then scratching, a soft scrape against snow near the lodge wall. Your chest tightens. Something moves outside, pressing closer. You rise, motioning for quiet. Others follow, weapons in hand, bows strung, spears gripped, knives gleaming faint in firelight. Mothers gather children close, whispering comfort. The lodge fills with tension, every body taut as a bowstring. The scratching comes again, then a low growl muffled by snow. You snatch a burning brand from the fire and crawl toward the flap. The cold rushes in as you lift it, wind tearing at your robe. The night outside is ink dark, snow faintly glimmering, and their eyes, dozens of them, glinting yellow, circling just beyond the fire's reach. Shapes move in silence, lean and patient. The wolves watch, their breath steaming, their paws soundless. You thrust the brand high, flame roaring. For a moment the wolves shrink back, their eyes blinking, but they do not flee. Hunger roots them. You shout, voice raw, the sound carried on the gale. Behind you, others raise their voices too, a chorus of defiance. The firebrand spits sparks, sending faint light across fur and teeth. The wolves linger. One steps forward, larger than the rest, its fur bristling. It growls, a sound deep as the river's ice. For a moment it feels like a challenge, a test of who holds this night. You grip the brand tighter, heart pounding. The elder's words echo. Wolves are kin, but kin can turn against kin when bellies are empty. Quirky beliefs surface in memory. Some say tying a strip of hide around the fire drove wolves away, the scent confusing them. Others swore that singing loudly made wolves mistake humans for many more than they were. Unsure, you do both, dropping a hide into flames and raising your voice in song, harsh but steady. Others join, their voices weaving with yours, trembling but loud. The wolves hesitate, their ears twitch, their heads tilt. The leader growls once more, then turns, pacing back into the dark. The others follow, melting into shadows, their eyes vanishing one by one, silence returns, broken only by the hiss of snow. Relief surges, but caution lingers. Wolves retreat, but they do not vanish. They wait. You lower the brand, hands shaking. Inside, voices rise in whispers. Children cling to mothers, eyes wide, still listening for howls. Elders nod solemnly, as if expecting this test. One murmurs. The storm hungers through them. His words settle heavy, neither curse nor comfort. You rebuild the fire higher, feeding it logs until flames roar. The lodge glows orange, heat pushing back the cold. Smoke thickens, curling through the vent, drifting into night. The scent may carry far, but the fire's strength feels like shield. Around it, people breathe easier, shoulders loosening, yet every ear stays tuned to the dark, waiting for another cry. Hours creep by. Sometimes you hear faint rustling outside or the snap of a branch, but no more howls. The wolves linger unseen, their patience as deep as the snow. You fight drowsiness, tending the fire, spear close at hand. Each crackle of flame seems both comfort and warning. At last, eyelids heavy, you rest against the lodge wall. The wolves do not return this night. Whether it was fire, song, or chance that saved you, you cannot know. But their memory lingers in the silence, teeth pressed against the edge of dreams. When sleep claims you, you dream of yellow eyes circling, of snow shifting under paws, of firebrands burning bright against the storm. The wolves fade, as dawn edges faint through hides, but their hunger remains etched in your bones. Historians often focus on hunts, battles, and leaders, yet much of survival in winter storms rested in quieter labours. Hands stitching, mending, binding, archaeological finds of bone needles, thimbles made of antler, and scraps of hide with neat holes tell stories as vital as arrowheads or spears. Without the steady rhythm of women's hands, shelters frayed, robes tore, and children froze. Now as dawn weakly filters through smoke holes, the lodge hums with such labour. Outside snow still lies deep, but the storm has eased to a steady fall. Inside, firelight glows across busy hands. Women sit near the flames, hides spread across laps, needles piercing with practiced grace. The sound is faint but constant, punctures, pulls, threads tightening. It is music of survival, soft but essential. You watch as a robe is repaired. The hide is thick, bison hair dense, but a tear runs across its shoulder where frost stiffened it too brittle. Fingers pinch edges together, needle slides through, sinew pulls taut by knot. The tear vanishes, strength returning where weakness spread. The robe will warm a child tonight, its mended scar hidden but vital. Nearby, another woman stitches moccasins. The soles are worn, edges frayed. She works swiftly, tongue pressing against her lip in concentration. The smell of hide and grease fills the air, earthy and pungent. When finished, the moccasins will protect feet against ice, sharp as knives, each step made possible by her care. Children hover near, watching. Some thread sinew, clumsy but eager, their stitches uneven but proud. Others scrape hides with bone tools, thinning them for use. Their laughter mingles with fire crackle, softening the lodge's tension. Even in hunger, even in cold, the rhythm of work creates warmth of its own. One elder woman sings as she sews, voice low and steady. The words are old, a weaving of prayer and memory. She sings of ancestors who bent willow into domes, who draped hides thick, who packed snow tight. Her song is not for entertainment but for binding, tying the present to the past, every stitch a thread through time. The younger women hum along, their voices rising in harmony, soft yet strong. Quirky details surface in memory. Some oral traditions describe women rubbing fat into thread, believing it carried warmth into the stitch itself. You see it here, a woman dipping sinew into grease, fingers slick as she works. The smell is sharp, but her hands move faster. the threads sliding smoothly, gleaming in firelight. Whether superstition or practical wisdom, the effect is real, the stitches hold firm. You notice how the work extends beyond clothing. Hides are patched over lodge seams, small tears mended before wind can widen them. Mats of woven reeds are bound tighter, edges reinforced with fresh sinew. Even baskets are repaired, their fibres rewoven, ready to hold food once the storm relents. Nothing is left idle. Every object carries weight in survival. The men, too, watch in quiet respect. Spears and bows rest nearby, their edges sharpened, their work done for now. But here, in the heart of the lodge, it is the women's hands that steady the world. You sense it in the way shoulders ease as each stitch completes, the way sighs of relief escape when another tear is closed. Survival is measured not only in kills but in seams. One woman pauses, her fingers raw, blood smearing across hide. She licks it quickly, pressing on without complaint. Her child curls at her side, wrapped in the very robe she repairs. You realize her work is not abstract. It is immediate, urgent for the breath sleeping beside her. Each stitch is not for later, but for now. You recall journals of missionaries who marveled at the endurance of women in winter camps, writing how they worked by firelight until their fingers cracked, then worked still. Some dismissed it as duty, but you see more here. It is devotion, fierce and unyielding, a strength quiet yet greater than storm. The lodge grows warmer, not only from fire but from movement, voices and breath. The smell of hides, grease, smoke, and bodies thickens the air. Your eyes water, chest tight, yet the sensation carries comfort. You are part of something larger, stitched into the lodge's life as surely as sinew into hide. The hours slip by in rhythm. Stitch, pull, knot, scrape, rub, fold. The storm outside may rage, but inside, hands create order from chaos. You lose yourself in the cadence, your own fingers busy with thread, clumsy but improving. Each stitch you make is a tether against despair. At last the work slows. Robes hang whole again, moccasins strong, seams sealed. The women lean back, shoulders sagging, hands raw but proud. The fire burns steady, casting light across their faces, lined with fatigue yet glimmering with resolve. Quirky customs return. One child holds a finished robe high, declaring it stronger than before because spirits live in the stitches. Laughter ripples through the lodge, tired but genuine. Perhaps it is true. Perhaps every repair carries spirit, resilience woven into fabric. As night falls, the storm's voice softens. Wolves howl faintly, distant now, their hunger unmet. The lodge stands whole, its heart steady. You lie down, robe pulled close, warmth seeping through every seam. The stitches hold, and with them life holds too. You close your eyes, listening to the memory of needles piercing, threads pulling, songs humming. The strength of women's hands lingers in your chest, steady as heartbeat. The storm may return, but its teeth will find fewer cracks now. You drift into sleep, cocooned in labour's quiet triumph. Travellers through northern forests often remarked that winter made trees speak. Journals from the 18th and 19th centuries described groans that echoed like wails, branches snapping like musket fire, and trunks splitting with sounds that carried for miles. Scientists would later explain the cause. Ice expanded inside fibres, wind bent frozen saplings until they cracked, weight of snow bowed crowns until they surrendered. But for those who lived beneath them, these were not mechanical failures. They were voices, omens, messages from spirits rooted deeper than memory. Now, as another night settles heavy, you hear those voices. At first it is distant, a faint moan carried through the gale, low and mournful. Then it grows nearer, sharper, until the whole forest seems alive with protest. Pines sway under ice, their trunks bending, branches scraping one another with grinding squeals. Snow falls in cascades as boughs shudder, sending white avalanches into drifts below. You step outside the lodge, robe pulled tight, breath stolen by the cold. The sky glimmers faintly with stars, a rare break in the storm, yet the stillness above contrasts with chaos around trees bowing, branches snapping, echoes booming through the dark. Each sound rattles your chest, deep and resonant. You feel small, a child beneath giants cracking under invisible weight. Others gather behind you, faces pale in starlight. One elder murmurs that the trees are angry, that the storm has pressed them too far. A child asks if the forest itself might fall on them, flattening lodge and fire alike. No one answers. You look toward the tree line, calculating distances, tracing the arc a trunk might carve if it gave way. The lodge is sturdy against wind, but no hide or sinew can withstand a falling pine. Suddenly, a crack like thunder. You flinch as a spruce shatters, its trunk splitting with a scream, top half plunging into snow. The ground trembles faintly, snow billowing upward in a glittering cloud. Silence follows, sharper than before, until another crack erupts deeper in the forest. Each fall feels like the earth exhaling, releasing weight too great to bear. You hurry forward with others, searching for fallen branches. Danger and gift come together. Wood that breaks in storm can feed fire, strengthen walls. You wade through drifts, pulling limbs from snow, their needles stiff with frost. Resin oozes where wood split, sticky against gloves, smelling sharp and bitter. The branches are heavy with ice, but you drag them back, one by one, piling them near the lodge. The forest groans again, and you pause, heart racing. Overhead, a tall pine sways dangerously, its crown scraping another, sparks of snow tumbling with each grind. You retreat quickly, listening as the sound deepens, then stops. The tree holds for now. You move faster, wary with each step. Inside, fires roar higher with new fuel. Flames leap, casting bright light across hides. Sparks rise, smoke thickens, but warmth spreads wide. Relief mingles with fear. Each branch that cracks outside is both menace and salvation. You cannot decide whether to curse or thank the storm. Elders speak of trees as relatives, strong but mortal. One recalls a tale of a hunter who mocked a fallen trunk, boasting of its weakness, only to be struck days later by another. Respect them, he warns. They carry spirits older than ours. The children listen wide-eyed, glancing at the walls as if expecting the trees themselves to lean in. Quirky customs emerge. Someone tosses a pinch of food into the fire for the forest, muttering that it lessens anger. Another ties a strip of hide around a branch before feeding it to flames, believing it honors the tree's sacrifice. Scholars centuries later might call such acts superstition, yet in the lodge's glow they feel like balance restored. You feel it too, that to take wood without gesture risks insult, that gratitude must be shown even in hunger. The groaning outside continues through night, a constant chorus of bending, cracking, moaning. Sleep comes in fragments, broken by each sudden snap. Each time you jolt awake, heart pounding, imagining trunks crashing through the lodge. Dreams and waking blur. You see forests collapsing in endless waves, the ground shaking, fire sputtering. Yet dawn arrives without disaster. The walls stand, the roof holds, the forest remains, thinned but upright. In morning light you step out again. Fallen trees lie scattered, their branches sprawled like broken limbs. Some are stripped of bark where ice tore them, others hollow, their cores revealed. You run your hand along one trunk, the surface cold, the wood beneath pale and smooth. It feels both tragic and generous. Death for the tree, life for your fire. With others, you strip branches, stack wood, carve logs into manageable pieces. The sound of adzes replaces the storm's moans. Chips fly, resin scent fills the air, muscles strain with each strike. Work warms you as much as flame, sweat freezing quickly on your brow. The children gather chips, piling them proudly, their small contributions met with nods of approval. As the day passes, piles of wood grow high. You feel security in their presence. Each log a promise of nights survived, yet unease remains. The forest groans again, warning that storms still have power. You glance often at the sky, half expecting clouds to thicken. Later, an elder shows children how to read fallen trunks, rings that tell of summers wet or dry, winters harsh or gentle. He traces lines with a finger, voice soft, explaining how memory lives inside wood. The children listen, fascinated, as though the trees themselves carry stories no elder could speak. Perhaps they do. By evening, the lodge glows with fire fueled by the forest's gift. The smell of resin smoke clings to hides, sharp and heavy, making eyes water. Children sit near flames, carving small shapes from chips of wood, animals, birds, spirits of their imagining. Elders nod approvingly, satisfied with abundance and with memory passed forward. But outside, the trees still creak, bending beneath ice. Each moan is a reminder. Strength is not endless. Even giants fall. You lie down with that thought heavy in your chest, the sound echoing through dreams. In sleep, you wander forests of endless groaning, trunks bending overhead, branches reaching down like arms. Yet within the dream too, fire burns steady, keeping darkness at bay. And when you wake again, the first sound you hear is another crack, sharp, inevitable, a reminder that winter's grip is never done. Trade did not always mean beads or metal. Long before ships brought foreign goods inland, people traded something older, lighter, harder to measure: memory. In the long nights of storms, when travel was impossible and food scarce, families exchanged stories. These were not idle diversions but inheritances, tools made of words. Anthropologists later noted how oral traditions carried knowledge across centuries, embedding survival skills in myth. In storms, stories became currency, binding past to present. Now, as the fire glows steadily within the snow-packed lodge, bellies half full from fish and venison, voices rise again. The scraping of bone needles softens, the rhythm of mending slows, and the air shifts from labor to listening. Smoke curls upward in lazy coils, heavy but strangely gentle, like the breath of the ancestors themselves settling above. An elder clears his throat. His voice is gravel, cracked by age, but when he speaks, the hush is complete. He tells of distant camps, of buffalo robes traded across plains, of obsidian carried from mountains so far no child here has seen them. He remembers how drums once rolled across valleys, answered by songs from horizon to horizon. His words paint fire-lit gatherings larger than any lodge here, nights where voices did not compete with storms but overwhelmed them. You close your eyes, and the images rise like visions, lodges glowing against endless grass, the thrum of drums carrying through starlight, a world unbroken by snow. When he finishes, another elder begins. She speaks of winters when no game came, when hunger gnawed at bone. They chewed strips of leather, boiled bark into bitter broth. Families traded ornaments for handfuls of dried corn, stone scrapers for berries shriveled but sweet. One year, she says, only the generosity of neighbors carried them through, a people who shared even when their own pots were nearly empty. Her voice cracks on the word shared. Silence follows, thick and reverent. Children shift closer, eyes wide, not daring to break the stillness. For them these are not far-off tales, but maps, warnings of what storms can demand, and of how survival often comes not from strength, but from generosity. Their small faces flicker in firelight, shadows of ancestors stretching behind them. Then laughter erupts. Another elder interrupts, recalling a time when trade meant more mischief than necessity. He tells of young hunters who travelled far for obsidian, only to return with pockets heavy, not with stone, but with jokes told along the way. They traded riddles, he says, carrying laughter across rivers, as though it were more precious than blades. The lodge chuckles, shoulders shaking, the heaviness easing. Memory trades not only sorrow but joy. Someone gestures for you to speak. At first, your throat closes. The thought of adding your own words to this river of memory feels daunting. Yet slowly you begin. You tell of the deer taken in the storm's heart, of the river cracking beneath your knees, of the wolves circling the lodge in hungry silence. The words tumble uneven at first, then steady. The others nod, listening intently as though your story already belongs among theirs. When you finish, you realize your hands are trembling, but your heart feels lighter. Your voice has been added to the trade. Quirky details rise like driftwood in the current of memory. Someone recalls traders who rubbed ochre into hides before exchange, claiming the color gave strength to fabric. Another swears that fish hauled across snow could still remember rivers, slipping back into water at spring thaw if not eaten. Laughter bursts, skeptical but warm. Even the strangest fragments have weight, for they remind the young that truth and imagination often blur, and that both can keep a people alive. An elder produces a small pouch, its leather worn smooth with age. He loosens the cord and pours its contents onto the floor. Stones spill out, clinking softly. Each one is polished by years of handling. Every stone a memory, he says. He lifts them, one by one, naming what they hold. A brother lost to ice, a hunt that fed 50 mouths, a fire lit from embers carried for days. The children lean forward, eyes fixed on the stones as though they glow. You pick one up. It is cool and smooth, heavier than expected. In your palm it feels alive, as though carrying the pulse of stories spoken into it. You set it down gently, almost reverently. The lodge warms with stories. Fire crackles, voices weave, shadows leap across walls. The storm outside fades into background, its fury reduced to a soft hiss. Within, time bends. You feel as though you are sitting not only with those around you but with generations before, voices layered across centuries. Survival is not merely enduring the storm, it is carrying memory through it. Children grow drowsy. One girl fights sleep, eyelids heavy, insisting she must hear every word. Her mother strokes her hair, whispering, "The story will be here tomorrow too." Yet even half asleep, the child absorbs. In years to come, she will repeat fragments in her own voice, reshaping details, adding her own storms. Memory will continue its trade. An elder closes with a cautionary tale. He speaks of a boy who ignored his people's stories, wandering alone when storms came, when wolves surrounded him. He had no words to call them brothers, no songs to claim kinship. They took him, not in cruelty but in justice. Memory neglected was memory lost. The fire snaps as he finishes, sparks scattering upward. The warning lingers heavy in the smoke. No one speaks for a long moment. Then someone jokes gently that wolves surely prefer fat deer to skinny children. Laughter ripples, easing the weight. Relief spreads, the kind of laughter that affirms life, even in hunger. You lie back, robe wrapped tight. Listening still, words hum in your chest like sinew, binding you into the larger weave. Your eyelids sink, but memory does not fade. It seeps deeper, into breath, into muscle, into dream. You imagine stones whispering, trees groaning, rivers murmuring, all trading memory across time. And you know that tonight you too have given and received. Outside, the forest creaks again, branches groaning beneath ice. Perhaps the trees themselves exchange stories, each crack a message to its neighbors. You wonder what they say, what winters they recall, what storms they whisper to one another in groans and sighs. The thought lulls you, pulling you towards sleep, until memory itself becomes the dream you drift into. Explorers who crossed the northern plains often wrote of storms that seemed endless, blizzards that swallowed sky and earth, until both became one unbroken whiteness. In letters, some claimed the air itself vanished, so thick with snow that lungs felt clogged. Oral traditions describe the center of such storms as a living thing, the blizzard's heart, where breath became shallow, Vision collapsed to inches and sound twisted into illusions. To survive this heart was to endure winter's fiercest trial. Now days have passed, and the storm that once lulled into silence rises again with doubled force. The lodge shakes under its assault, hides flapping despite snow packed tight against them. The fire flickers low, struggling for air. Each gust howls like a beast pressing its jaws against the walls. You sense it, the storm is not finished. It is only beginning. The air inside thickens, smoky, stifling. Children cough. Mothers fan smoke with hides. Elders mutter about vent holes closing under drifts. You crawl to the entrance, lifting the flap, and are nearly thrown backward. Snow blasts inward, filling the lodge in moments, extinguishing sparks, covering robes. The cold seizes your face like claws. Breath rips away before it can warm your chest. The storm has reached its heart, and you are caught inside it. You and others claw at snow to clear an opening, but it collapses again and again, replaced faster than you can move it. Hands bleed, nails break, but still you dig. At last, a channel remains, a narrow throat for air. It is not enough, yet it is survival. You collapse near the flap, chest heaving, lungs burning with each gasp of freezing air. Inside, fear spreads. Voices rise in argument. One man insists the lodge cannot hold, that you must dig outward, build a tunnel. Another shakes his head, saying the storm will bury you before it's done. An elder shushes them both, reminding that panic kills faster than cold. His voice quivers, but steadies. You cling to his calm as though it is rope. The blizzard's voice dominates everything. It roars, shrieks, whistles through seams, screams like spirits circling. The walls tremble, poles groan. You feel the shelter sway, as though the storm itself wishes to pry it from the earth. Snow falls in bursts through gaps, blanketing hair and shoulders, cold seeping instantly. Even close to fire, frost creeps across hides, painting them white. You try to sleep, but the storm invades every sense. Your body jolts at each crack, each shift of poles. Dreams scatter, replaced by visions of endless white, of suffocating drifts pouring over you. You wake again and again, heart racing, body drenched in sweat, though air is freezing. The elders begin to chant. Their voices are low, rhythmic, steady against chaos. Some words are prayers, others stories folded into sound. The children clutch close, eyes wide, but their breathing eases with the chant's rhythm. You join softly, letting your voice merge, a fragile thread woven into the larger fabric. The storm howls, but the chant continues, unbroken. Hours or days blur together. Time bends in the storm's heart. You cannot tell dawn from dusk, night from morning. The lodge remains dark, only fire marking hours, embers rising, falling, rising again. Hunger deepens, water grows scarce. Fatigue claws at you. Still the storm does not relent. Quirky customs surface in whispers. One woman recalls her grandmother telling children to chew ice in storms, claiming it tricked hunger into silence. A boy gnaws at a lump of snow, face red, teeth aching, but laughter follows. Another elder says storms test not only bodies but patience. Those who curse the storm draw its anger longer. Everyone grows quiet at his words, unwilling to risk it. The blizzard presses harder. A loud crack splits the air, one pole bending, nearly breaking. Panic surges, hands rushing to brace, ropes pulled tighter, snow shoveled against weak points. You strain with others, muscles screaming, breath short. The pole holds barely. Relief floods, but terror lingers. How long until another creak warns of failure? You picture the storm as a living beast, circling, pressing, waiting for weakness. Its breath pours in through seams. Icy claws scrape walls. Its growls fill your ears. You know it is only wind, snow, air, but your body does not believe. Each gust feels like an attack, each lull a trap. The fire dims dangerously low. Wood dwindles, fuel near gone. Someone throws a woven mat onto flames. Another adds a carved tool. Sparks leap, flames flare, shadows dance wildly across faces lined with fear. Sacrifice feeds the fire, possessions, ornaments, even a child's toy carved of bone. Smoke rises thick, choking, but warmth spreads again. You feel gratitude and grief tangled together. At last, a strange shift comes. The howling grows less sharp, the wind more steady. The storm's rage slows, as though breath is fading. Outside remains buried, but the lodge no longer shakes as before. Inside, chests rise more easily, shoulders ease fraction by fraction. Exhaustion overtakes fear. People slump against walls, heads dropping, voices falling silent. You lie down, body trembling from hunger, eyes raw from smoke. The storm's roar lingers, but your mind drifts. In half-sleep you hear voices in the wind, whispers of ancestors, warnings, promises, perhaps imagination, perhaps memory. They say, endure. When you wake again, the storm still rages, but softer, less feral. It has passed its peak, the heart has beaten, and now comes the slow fade. You breathe deep, chest easing, and for the first time in days, you believe survival is possible. Historians often write of survival in terms of tools, food, and shelter. But diaries, letters, and oral histories reveal another truth. People endured storms not only through skill, but through kinship. Warmth came from more than fire. It came from touch, from shared breath, from laughter rising stubbornly against the howl of wind. In the harshest winters, solidarity was itself a form of technology, as vital as sinew or stone. Now, after days inside the blizzard's heart, bodies slump with exhaustion. The lodge is dim, smoke-streaked, hides damp with frost. Bellies rumble despite fish and venison shared sparingly. Yet even here, even with hunger sharp and fear fresh, warmth blooms, not from fire alone, but from closeness. Children cluster together in sleep, small hands linked, foreheads pressed. Mothers tuck robes tight around them, wrapping themselves too, forming cocoons of flesh and hide. You feel their heat when you sit near, a soft wave against your skin, stronger than flames. A boy murmurs in dreams, shifting against his sister's shoulder. She sighs, steady, safe. Elders lean against the lodge walls, their voices low as they trade fragments of song. The words are old, sometimes only sounds, yet the rhythm comforts. One hums, another joins, until melody ripples like a thread through air heavy with smoke. The tune is uneven, rising and faltering, but it holds the group together, a reminder that voices can still create harmony, even when the world outside screams. You stretch your hands toward the fire, its heat licking your palms. Someone passes a strip of dried meat, hardly more than a bite, but you break it in half and share with the child nearest. Her eyes widen in gratitude before she chews, slow and careful, savoring what little she has. The act costs you hunger but grants you something deeper, connection. A woman begins to tell a story, not of ancestors or storms, but of summer. She speaks of meadows filled with flowers, bees buzzing thick, children splashing in rivers. Her words paint colour into the grey lodge, warmth into cold air. Laughter rises as she describes a child who once fell face first into mud, emerging coated and proud. Even the hungriest smile, shoulders lifting. For a few breaths, the storm outside seems far away. Quirky traditions emerge in such moments. One elder pulls a pouch of herbs, scattering them into the fire. The smoke changes scent, sharp and sweet, prickling the nose. He says it drives away sorrow, that spirits drawn to misery cannot enter where laughter and fragrance linger. The children giggle at the pungent smell, teasing one another about sneezes. Whether true or not, the air feels lighter. As hours pass, you notice how bodies shift, leaning unconsciously together. A hand rests on another's shoulder, a head finds a lap, Robes overlap until individuals blur into a single woven whole. Breath mingles, rising as one cloud. Warmth deepens, not measurable, but undeniable. Your own shoulders loosen, tension melting under the simple fact of closeness. You recall journals of fur traders who marveled at native families pressed shoulder to shoulder in lodges, calling it cramped or primitive. Yet here you feel the truth. It is neither. It is design, resilience, an understanding that survival grows stronger in numbers. The warmth of kinship is as real as any fire, as necessary as any hunt. The storm howls louder suddenly, rattling poles, snow sifting through seams. A child whimpers, startled. Instantly arms wrap around her, voices soothe, songs rise. Fear ebbs, replaced by murmurs of comfort. You see it happen again and again, whenever the storm lashes. The group answers not with panic, but with touch, with words, with shared rhythm. Each response a shield, invisible but strong. Food simmers faint in a pot, scraps boiled into thin broth. The smell fills the lodge, meagre but rich to senses sharpened by hunger. Bowls are passed carefully, each sip warming throats, spreading heat deep into bellies. No one takes much, yet no one is left without. Fairness is enforced, not by rules but by trust. The broth tastes of bones and smoke, salt and patience, and of love disguised as necessity. An elder recalls a saying, "One log alone burns fast, logs together burn long." He gestures at the group huddled, nodding. The words are not metaphor but law. You look around and feel it. Without each other, the storm would consume you. Together you endure. The hours slip by, blurred by drowsiness. Some sleep, some whisper, some simply sit in silence, leaning into warmth. You listen to breaths, dozens rising and falling in rhythm, and it lulls you like waves. Fire crackles low, its glow casting faces in gold. The storm growls outside, but inside, kinship holds. You drift in and out of sleep, dreaming of summers, of hunts, of rivers. In each dream you are never alone. Always hands reach, voices call, laughter carries. You wake with the same warmth lingering, heart steady even as wind presses against walls. Quirky detail drifts into your mind. How some stories claim storms themselves, envy human closeness, raging harder to break it. If true, then tonight the storm must be furious indeed, for the lodge is bound tighter than ever. You smile faintly at the thought, even as fatigue pulls heavier. At last you lie down fully, pressed between bodies, heat seeping into you. Your chest rises in rhythm with those around you, breath blending into theirs. The storm's roar softens, muffled by closeness. Your eyes close and you realize that for all the fire's work, for all the tools and hides, it is this touch, laughter, memory that shields you most. You surrender to it, slipping into sleep with warmth of kinship wrapped around you like a second skin. In the journals of explorers, dawn during a blizzard was often described as a trick of the sky. Pale light bled through snow clouds, yet it revealed nothing certain, only a greyness that blurred night and day. Missionaries wrote of waking in storms, convinced they had overslept entire days, time erased by whiteness. For native families, such dawns carried both relief and unease, relief that life still pulsed inside the lodge, unease that no one could say whether the storm had truly ended. You wake to such a dawn now. The fire has dwindled to embers, faint red eyes blinking in ash. Smoke lingers, curling sluggishly through the vent, thick enough to sting your throat. Around you, bodies shift and murmur, rising from restless dreams. A child whimpers. Someone coughs, deep and wet. No one speaks at first, as though waiting for sound itself to prove morning's truth. The light seeping through hides is thin, colourless. You crawl to the flap, lifting it slightly, and stare into a blur. Snow still falls, but lightly, drifting more than driving. The world beyond is pale, horizon lost, trees blurred into vague pillars. Is it dawn, or only stormlight bending itself? Your chest tightens at the uncertainty. The storm has bent time, turned it into a circle without edges. Others gather near, peering out in silence. Eyes squint against glare, pupils shrinking. The snow reflects what little light exists, blinding, flattening every shape. A trunk looms and vanishes, swallowed by mist. The river's path is erased. You could step outside and lose yourself within seconds. The elders exchange glances, but none claim to know if day has begun. One mutters that storms breed false dawns, light with no warmth, hope with no ending. Inside, hunger stirs again. The broth of bones and scraps has thinned to nothing, a watery memory of meals. Children whimper softly, clutching robes tighter. A woman dips a strip of hide into boiling water, softening it enough to chew. The smell is leathery, bitter, but it offers at least the illusion of fullness. You take a bite, jaw aching, tongue curling at the taste. It is not food, but it is something to press against hunger's sharpness. An elder tells of a winter when storms hid the sun for weeks. We carved marks into wood to keep days, he says, voice rasping, otherwise time vanished. He runs his finger along a scarred stick, notching invisible lines as he speaks. Another recalls how beads were moved from pouch to pouch, one for each prayer spoken, until storms relented. Children listen wide-eyed, imagining weeks without sun, their mouths open as if tasting the thought. The lodge is heavy with fatigue, eyes red from smoke, throats raw, bodies stiff. Some press foreheads against hides, listening for change in the storm's breath. Others simply stare into fire's embers, as if they hold answers. A boy asks if the sun has died. His mother hushes him, but her eyes flicker with unease. You crawl outside briefly, careful, each step sinking knee-deep. The snow presses around you, silence absolute. The world glows faint, neither day nor night, as though suspended between. You raise your hand, even its outline fades in the glare. For a moment panic rises. If you cannot see your own hand, how can you find the lodge again? You stumble back quickly, relief flooding as hides part, warmth and breath pulling you inside. Back near the fire, you listen to its faint hiss. Smoke curls upward, vanishing into seams. The storm's voice outside is softer now, only occasional gusts rattling walls. Yet uncertainty weighs heavier than noise. Is the danger past or only paused? Every sound feels like omen. The creak of poles, the sigh of wind, even the crack of resin in the flames. Sleep hovers but refuses to hold. When it comes, it is restless. You dream of wandering endless snowfields where the sky is ground and the ground is sky. You walk and walk, but direction vanishes. Faces appear briefly. Kin, ancestors, children then dissolve into whiteness. You wake gasping, unsure if moments or hours have passed. The elders say storms warp not only time but mind. Some wander into snow believing dawn has come, only to vanish. Stories tell of hunters who swore they saw firelight ahead, voices calling, only to find nothing but white void. The blizzard tricks senses, lures with illusions. You clutch your robe tighter, vowing not to be deceived, though doubt prickles. Inside the lodge, kinship still anchors. A woman hums quietly, her song simple but steady. Children press close to her side, lulled into calmer breaths. A man sharpens his knife, though there is little to cut. The rhythm of stone on steel is comfort itself. Even in uncertainty, these small acts keep the fabric of survival intact. At last, a shift comes. Light strengthens, faint shadows edging across walls. Snow still falls, but softer, almost tender. For the first time in days, you can tell morning from night. A sigh ripples through the lodge, relief subtle but deep. Yet unease remains. What if it is only another false dawn, another pause before fury returns? You sit near the flap, watching. The sky is still a blur but lighter. Smoke from the fire drifts outward instead of being pressed back in. The wind's howl thins, no longer a beast but a whisper. Your breath steadies, though hunger still claws and fatigue drags at your limbs. You understand something new. Survival is not the end of storms, but the patience to wait through their lies, to sit in uncertainty, to endure false dawns, until true light returns. You curl close to the fire, robe heavy, hunger gnawing, but chest rising steady. Dawn, or something like it, filters pale through the hides. You let it be enough for now, closing your eyes, surrendering to fragile rest. Explorers' journals often marvel at how a single storm could erase a landscape, as if a giant hand had brushed it clean. Trails vanished, tree lines blurred, and even rivers grew indistinguishable from the fields beside them. Some accounts describe people stepping from their own doorways and losing direction within a dozen paces. Among native families, the first task after such storms was not hunting or gathering wood, but remaking the map, laying tracks back onto a world that had forgotten itself overnight. You wake to a quieter white, the storm's roar spent. The air still bites, sharp and metallic, but wind has thinned to a steady breath. The lodge creaks as sleepers stir, and the glow of the banked fire deepens when you feed it, a careful armful of wood. Hunger scratches at bellies. Thirst too. Ice melts slow, and mouths feel lined with ash. Yet the pull strongest in your ribs is direction. Where is the river? Where the stand of birches? Where the line of the old trail cut by footsteps and seasons? The storm took them all. It is time to lay them down again. You lace your moccasins, pulling them snug over wraps you warmed at the fire. Around you, people prepare in the quiet way of those who have done a thing many times before. A woman tightens a repaired belt around her robe and hands you a bundle of willow twigs. For marking, she says, as if passing you a second set of eyes. An elder gives you a small bag of ash and charcoal. If white blinds you, make your own shadows, he murmurs. The tools feel simple, almost childish, and absolutely essential. At the flap, a boy stands already wrapped and ready, proud and serious. He will come to learn, to place sticks, to see the land reappear. Beside him, the father from the collapsed lodge adjusts his spear, volunteering to break trail. He meets your eyes once gratitude, debt, and a silent promise to start paying it back. Parallel lives not together at the threshold. You shoulder the bundle of twigs and step into a world so bright it hums. Fresh snow lies knee-deep and wind-combed into long, pale dunes. The sky is a faded coin. No shadows, no edges, only gradients of grey-blue. Your first step sinks with a soft whoomp, then another. Behind you, the boy imitates your stride, boots squeaking. The air is so cold your nose aches, so pure it has a taste. Like tin, breath plumes and crystallizes on your lip, a quick rim of frost that melts and forms again. The lodge, half buried, wears its muff of snow like a second skin. You turn to study it, fixing the angle it makes with a notched spruce. First anchor, first memory. Then you begin to draw the map. A bent willow branch goes into the drift by the door, arcing toward your intended route. 20 paces forward you push another in, then another. The boy learns the rhythm. Walk, plant, count your steps. Walk, plant, count. A faint breadcrumb trail of green arcs marks the blankness, a path that holds even when wind licks the top layer smooth again. You aim toward where the river should be, feeling direction more than knowing it. The father from next door breaks trail, thighs burning as he lifts through waist-high swells, body heaving. When his breath grows ragged, you move ahead and take your turn, then he returns. A wordless exchange. Behind, the boy strokes the drifts with a willow wand as if calming an animal, then stabs the wand home. In this white, even ceremony is useful. A small drama unfolds when you pass the spruce that groaned through the last night. Its top has finally shattered, and the trunk lies half swallowed in snow, pitch oozing like amber tears. You pause to listen. The forest has not stopped complaining, only quieted. The father reaches to the trunk, presses a palm to it, then chips loose a lump of resin with his knife. He offers it to the boy, who sniffs and crinkles his face at the sharpness. The elder's pouch of ash rustles at your hip. You rub a thumbful over a nearby drift, leaving a long, sooty stripe, an absurd mark against the endless white, and exactly what you need. If tomorrow's wind scrapes away the willow tips, the blackened drift may still anchor memory. Mainstream accounts say many northern nations use snowshoes in deeper snows, their webbing spreading weight like a second set of feet. Records also suggest usage varied on the plains. Some communities adopted them rarely, depending on terrain and drifts. Today you feel the penalty of bare steps, thighs burning, boots heavy, heart thudding. You consider the uncertain stories that some groups fashioned quick storm shoes by lashing willow to soles, makeshift frames for days like this. Whether that trick was common or only a traveller's boast, it tempts you now, but your hands are busy with markers and spear, and your legs know this labour's old rhythm. The boy points, voice a little squeak in the bright cold. A black thread spiders across the surface ahead, cracked ice or bent reed. You skirt it wide until a darker flatness spreads beyond the river at last, asleep and shining. Its skin is a mirror of sky, scoured by wind and sprinkled with snow like flour on a board. You mark the near bank with 3 willows in a triangle, a sign your people use to say caution, water beneath. The boy places the 3rd, hands unsteady but precise, and something proud settles in his shoulders. At the river's edge, you stop to listen. The old trick, ear to the ice. A thin hum travels up through your skull, like a deep drum heard from far away. Water moves under there, slow but stubborn. You test the ice with your adze. 1 tap, 2, 3. It rings high and hard. Good here, but you take no chances, angling along the bank instead of crossing. You dust a line of charcoal with a glove across a drift, a bar of night to guide you home if snow returns. A cinematic moment rises when the wind parts a sheet of blown crystals, and in that open blink, a line of tracks appears on the far side, delicate ovals stitched in a running rhythm. Rabbit. Over those, a second handwriting, slimmer prints in pairs, the sign of a fox. The story is fresh, written minutes ago. Hunger tugs at your forearms, eager to follow, but the river lies between, and the path today is map work, not hunt. You study the tracks until the wind drapes them again. The world edits itself, ruthless copyist. You continue, leaving marks at intervals. Willow, stripe, willow, stripe. The father finds a broken branch and shaves it to a bright inner wood, then sticks the bare end up, a small sun against the white, clever colour that the storm cannot steal. You answer by tying a strip of red cloth from a mended robe to another twig. It flaps stiffly, soundless in the cold. The boy grins at the rare splash of colour, then quickly tucks his hands back inside his sleeves. Quirky lore accompanies you. Elders say spit laid on snow tells direction. Steam blown flat by wind points the way it travels. You test it, feel silly, and yet the pale plume does tilt consistently. The boy giggles behind his mitten, then tries, missing his boot by a finger's width. Lessons arrive in laughter and in maps. Social contrast plays quietly at your side. The father who nearly lost his family now breaks trail without being asked, while you, with a fuller lodge and stronger roof, mark slowly, saving your strength. The boy learns from both of you, one who pays back a debt with muscle, one who spends long attention like coin. Survival holds many shapes, and both fit inside this path. By midday, if it is midday, the light never changes. You reach the birch stand. Black and white trunks rise like smoke-stained pillars. Some bark curls away in papery tongues. You peel a small sheet, careful and grateful, fold it into the pouch, tinder for later, a promise of flame in a pocket. The boy strokes a trunk, then presses his cheek to it as if to feel the cold more truly. Listening for sap, the father whispers dryly, and the boy rolls his eyes, pleased to have been noticed. Here you lay a more complex sign, a tripod of willows with a crosspiece, a gate pointing toward the route home, and another toward a safe cut over the hill when the river is untrustworthy. You dust the snow at its base with charcoal again, dark whiskers that the next drift may not quite bury. Records suggest some winter travelers built low snow cairns on the plains after extreme storms, waist-high markers that cast a longer shadow when light returned. Whether that was widespread or only used in rare years, your hands itch to try. But the snow here is too brittle, squeaking dry, unwilling to stack high. You settle for the gate and a promise to return with more hands. Turning back, you discover the first gift of your work, a corridor of small certainties. Each green arc, each sooty line, each scrap of red cloth becomes a bead you count with your eyes. Your pace quickens. Behind you, the father laughs once, short and surprised, as if he didn't expect hope to feel so physical. The boy darts from marker to marker like a bird bouncing between reeds, then remembers and plants a new twig solemnly, tiny priest at a white altar. Halfway home, wind rises for a breath, and the surface shifts. Spindrift skates across the track and softens your earliest prints. Your heart jumps, but the willow tips and charcoal stripes remain, the red cloth stubborn as a berry in frost. You feel the strange power of thin things. A twig, a thread, a finger width of black, tools small enough to carry in a mitten and big enough to save a family. Near the lodge, voices float out thin as smoke. Someone spotted your flags, the cloth and shaved branch gleaming like trickles of summer. Children spill to the flap, eyes bright. When you step inside, the air of the shelter feels heavier, sweeter, overfull with breath and cooked fat. You lay the pouch down, the willows, the charcoal. The map you drew out there begins to draw warmth in here. People relax, shoulders drop, jokes bubble up. The father sets his spear aside, and without ceremony starts cutting wood for the night. Debt continues to pay itself, not with words but with rhythm. You describe the route, the triangle at the river, the gate at the birches, the black stripe on the long drift. Fingers trace the air as you speak, sketching an invisible diagram on hides and smoke. Children memorize with their bodies, leaning when you say bend, crouching when you say bank, stepping side to side when you say skirt the crack. There is no parchment, but there are muscles and nerves, and they take ink just fine. Later, you return briefly to the first marker by the door, and push it deeper, tilting it a degree to point more truly. The small adjustment pleases you. The day has been a long argument with emptiness, and this arrowhead of green declares we are here. This is the way. As dusk, if dusk gathers, you slip the last strip of red into your belt. The boy lingers at the flap, squinting toward the first gate until wind lifts a veil, and he sees it. He inhales, a tiny gasp, and turns back smiling, teeth bright in the dim. There, he says, as if he planted a star. When you finally lie down, the lodge's floor feels less like a raft at sea, and more like ground again. Snow sighs along the roof. Your calves throb pleasantly, your shoulders burn. In the cooling dark, a final image rests behind your eyes. A line of green tips stitching across the white, a sewing of world to world. You breathe into that seam, and warmth gathers where effort leaves. Sleep finds you with the taste of cold still on your tongue, and the feel of willow bark rough under glove, a path lingering in your hands even as your fingers slacken. Missionaries and fur traders often recorded that winter nights were filled with song. Some dismissed it as superstition, charms against the weather. Others, more observant, realized that singing was as practical as it was spiritual. It calmed children, it steadied breath, it gave rhythm to endless hours. And in storms when fire smoked and food thinned, voices themselves became fuel, warmth carried on sound. Now the lodge breathes heavy with fatigue. The paths you laid with willow still stand outside, a spine across the white, but inside bodies are weary, shoulders drooped, eyes dim. Hunger lingers sharp, smoke stings, the cold presses still, slipping under hides despite snow piled high. It is in this hour when silence grows heavy enough to smother that someone begins to sing. The voice is low at first, hardly more than a hum. A woman by the fire threads her tune carefully, each note drawn like sinew through hide. It is not a song of words but of sounds, vowels stretched, tones rising and falling like breath. Her child curls against her lap, eyes closing as the melody drapes over him. Others join. A man taps a rhythm against his thigh. A hollow thump, thump, steady as a heart. Another hums harmony, his voice rough, frayed by smoke, but strong in its persistence. Soon the lodge is threaded with song, weaving through rafters and smoke like unseen fabric. You listen, chest loosening, breath syncing with the rhythm. The storm outside growls, but within the circle of voices its power fades. The air feels warmer, not from fire but from vibration, the way sound itself stirs body and blood. You feel your skin tingle, as though song has drawn you closer to your own flesh. The melodies shift. One carries memory of summer, birds calling, water splashing, laughter rolling. Another dips into sorrow, voices bending low, a hum that seems to mourn lost kin. But even sorrow feels steady here, wrapped in harmony, softened by community. Quirky customs emerge as the night deepens. A child shakes a rattle made of gourd and pebbles, its sharp clatter surprising but bright. An elder chuckles, telling how rattles once scared away cold spirits, their clatter breaking frost's teeth. The children widen eyes, shake harder, proud to battle spirits with sound. Laughter follows, lightening the smoke-thick air. You add your voice, tentative at first, then firmer. The tune is unfamiliar, but the rhythm is body-deep, as natural as breath. The boy from the trail joins too, high and wavering, his cheeks flushed with effort. Together your notes braid with others, and you realize no voice here is perfect, but the whole is flawless. The fire burns lower, yet the lodge glows brighter with sound. Shadows move like dancers across hides, stirred by sparks and song alike. The storm hammers walls, but the beat of hands, the rise of voices, answers with defiance. For every gust another verse, for every groan of pole another hum, the balance holds. An elder shifts into story song, his words half spoken, half sung. He tells of a woman who sang a blizzard quiet, her voice weaving through flakes until snow itself lay down to listen. The children lean forward, wide-eyed. The elder grins, admitting at last that no storm can truly be silenced, but perhaps it can be softened. The point is not victory, but endurance. You remember reading later, outsiders wrote of how winter songs carried information too, instructions hidden in verse, advice wrapped in rhyme. You hear it now. Between melody and memory are reminders. Keep wood dry, keep hides patched, keep children close. The songs are manuals disguised as music, and in singing them, knowledge flows easier, almost unnoticed. Hunger interrupts briefly. Bowls are passed, thin broth again, flavoured with the last scraps of bone. Yet as it steams, voices rise louder. The rhythm of eating blends with rhythm of song, spoons tapping softly, breaths filling between verses. The taste is meagre, but with song it feels richer, fuller. Your body warms despite emptiness, carried by the current of sound. Later, voices soften. The woman who began the hum shifts into a lullaby. Words simple, repeating, rocking. Even adults grow still, eyes heavy, letting the melody cradle them. The fire pops, sparks climbing upward like notes. Children slip into sleep one by one, their breaths folding into harmony with song. Outside, the storm does not end, but it fades in your mind. Its growl becomes backdrop, a drum beneath melody. You realize the cold has not left, but your body registers it less, distracted by warmth of sound. The elders knew this truth. Song cannot change weather, but it changes people, and that is enough. You lie back, eyes closing, voice still humming. The tune drifts even as sleep takes you, a thread tying you to those around you. Your last thought before dream is that voices, shared in storm, are stronger than fire, and the storm itself seems to pause, listening at the edges of song. When storms relent, the world they leave behind is never the same as before. Travellers in later centuries described how snow reshaped land into illusions, ridges where none had stood, valleys swallowed, paths erased. The first light after blizzards created shadows that tricked the eye. Hunters swore they saw animals crouching in the drifts, or distant lodges where only rocks stood. Among native families, these shadows were read carefully, some as warnings, some as guides, some as messages from spirits who travelled in storms. You wake to stillness again. The storm has quieted, leaving the air sharp and brittle. The lodge breathes shallow, hides creaking faintly as they adjust against weight above. You crawl to the flap and push it open. Pale light spills across your face, so bright it burns your eyes. You blink hard, tears freezing at their edges. The storm is gone for now. Outside, the world is dazzling, smoothed into a white plain broken only by curves of drift and the black tips of trees. Sunlight, weak but steady, stretches across snow and casts long blue shadows. They lie across the surface like brushstrokes, soft at edges, sharp at centre. Some resemble animals, antlers rising, tails curling. Others mimic shapes of shelters, small domes that almost convince your eyes. You step carefully into the drifts, the air so silent you hear your own heart beat. Each footfall crunches with startling clarity. Behind you, others emerge, shielding eyes with hands. Children gasp at the brightness, stumbling and laughing as they sink knee-deep. For days they have known only the storm's roar. Now they discover its aftermath, a silent sea glittering under sun. An elder squints across the plain, pointing. See that shadow? Ilk. You follow his hand, and indeed, in the wavering light, the blue form on snow resembles the body of an elk lying down. Children gasp. But when you approach, it dissolves, only a drift shaped by wind. The elder chuckles. The storm plays tricks. Learn to read which are lies. His words settle as lesson, reminder that shadows carry both guidance and deception. You venture farther. Your willow markers from the day before rise proudly, half buried but visible, each casting its own faint stripe across the snow. Relief fills your chest. You are not lost. The map holds. But even so, every step feels precarious, as though the world itself has been erased and redrawn in unfamiliar lines. The father from the neighbouring lodge walks beside you, spear in hand. He stops suddenly, crouching to study a patch of snow where shadow shifts strangely. A depression runs along it, subtle but present, tracks. At first they appear as darkness alone, tricks of light, but when you kneel you see the indentations, hooves, deer, moving east. The storm did not erase all. Some signs remain for those willing to bend low to look twice. Hunger stirs in your belly, stronger than caution. Children scamper between shadows, turning them into games. They leap across dark patches as if over rivers or crouch within them pretending to be animals. Their laughter echoes strangely, bright against the silence. Elders smile faintly, though eyes never stop scanning horizons. Even in play, shadows are read, measured, considered. Quirky lore returns. An elder recalls how some claimed shadows of storms foretold weather. If a shadow stretched long, another storm would follow soon. If short, calm would last. You glance at the blue lines, impossibly long in low sun, reaching almost to horizon. The elder shakes his head. We must prepare. Whether truth or tale, no one dismisses it. You walk farther, into open plain. Every dip and mound becomes a trick. One shadow suggests wolves crouched low, another, a hunter standing tall. Your mind strains to separate real from imagined. The father beside you mutters that storms leave ghosts, shapes of things not present. You wonder if perhaps he is right, if snow records not only what is but what has passed. The river glimmers ahead, its surface a sheet of glass streaked with blue. Shadows of trees cross it like black ladders. You pause, imagining them as bridges, though you know they are only illusions. Still, your feet ache with the desire to step across, to trust them. You force yourself to stay on the bank, hunger not worth the gamble. The boy from before plants another willow twig, careful, solemn. Its shadow stretches across snow, long and sharp. He points at it, proud. Now the lodge has a tail, he says. The elders chuckle, amused by his imagination. Yet the truth lingers. Each shadow, each mark, extends your presence, ties you to land even as storm seeks to erase you. As the day wears on, sun tilts low, shadows lengthening until they overlap, merging into one vast blue net spread across white. It feels as though the storm has not ended but only changed shape, no longer wind and roar but silence and illusion. You tread carefully, eyes never certain, heart always quickening at shapes that dissolve when touched. Inside the lodge, stories rise again, now shaped by what you saw. Children describe elk that vanished, wolves made of light. Elders nod, folding new memories into old teachings. One says, storms leave more than snow. They leave pictures. Learn to read them, and you will know where to walk. That night, as fire burns low, you dream of shadows sliding across snow like living things. They curl, stretch, chase each other, form walls and rivers, then vanish. You follow them, running, until one turns and takes your hand. Its touch is cold, yet steady, guiding you back to the lodge's glow. You wake with the image still in your chest. Survival not only in warmth, but in learning to read what storms leave behind. In explorer journals, the thaw is described with disbelief. Rivers cracking like drums, snow collapsing in on itself with sudden roars, air filling with scents long buried. Oral traditions speak of the thaw more tenderly, as breath returning to the world, as a great stirring after deep sleep. To reach this moment after storms was to stand on the edge of survival and renewal both. You wake one morning and sense difference instantly. The air in the lodge feels damp, heavy with moisture. Firewood hisses when laid on embers, steam rising in thin curls. The hides drip faintly at seams. Outside, the silence has changed. No longer brittle and sharp, it carries faint trickles, distant drips. You crawl to the flap, push it wide and inhale. The scent hits you first, earth. Not the metallic tang of snow, but the dark smell of soil beginning to breathe again. The world outside glimmers still with snow, but its surface has sagged, softened. Shadows blur at edges. Water gleams in channels where ice has begun to melt. The river groans audibly, its frozen back shifting, splitting with cracks that echo like thunder. Children run forward, laughing, touching puddles with bare fingers before shrieking at the cold. Their joy is louder than any storm's howl. Work begins quickly. Snow packed against the lodge walls must be pulled away before it collapses inward. You dig with others, hands plunging into heavy, wet masses. Each clump slides easily now, heavy but yielding. Beneath, ground appears, brown earth, streaked with frost, the first sight of soil in weeks. Your chest loosens at the sight, as though the land itself has returned to you. Hunger is sharp still, but now hope carries it differently. With thaw comes promise of fish moving faster in rivers, of small animals stirring in burrows, of geese soon flying overhead. Elders speak of traps to be reset, of willow shoots soon sprouting tender green tips. Even before these things arrive, their memory feeds you. Quirky customs return. An elder scatters a handful of snow into the river, whispering thanks for holding life beneath its frozen skin. Another places the season's first dripping icicle inside the lodge, saying its meltwater carries medicine. Children laugh as drops fall onto noses and cheeks, but they drink it all the same, believing it sweeter than any snow eaten before. The thaw also carries dangers. Ice breaks suddenly, swallowing unwary feet. Heavy snow collapses roofs if not cleared. Paths vanish under slush. You see it when a young hunter steps too far onto river's edge. Ice shatters, plunging him knee-deep. He scrambles back, dripping and shivering. Laughter follows, but also caution. The thaw is gift, but one with sharp edges. Inside the lodge, light grows brighter, seeping through seams. Smoke drifts more easily now, pulled upward by rising air. The fire burns stronger, fueled by wood gathered from fallen trees. The air smells different, still of resin and hides, but threaded now with water, soil, thaw. It feels like breathing not just for lungs, but for spirit. Children chase each other outside, splashing in slush. Their footprints sink deep, leaving long strings of impressions across soft snow. You watch them, marveling at how quickly despair turns to play, how storms yield laughter once more. Elders shake heads, muttering warnings, but smiles curl their lips too. You take a walk toward the birches marked weeks ago. The snow is softer now, collapsing underfoot. The willows planted as markers lean at odd angles, their bases sinking into slush. Yet they still stand, still guide. You touch one, bark damp, and feel pride at its endurance. Beyond, the birches themselves gleam dark where snow has slid from trunks, revealing pale bark streaked with moisture. You peel another strip, this time not for tinder, but for the joy of feeling life again in your palm. The father from the neighbouring lodge stands beside you, watching river's ice break. He exhales long, then says quietly, "We are alive." It is not boast, not even relief, but statement of fact, carved heavy and sacred. You nod, words unnecessary. His children splash nearby, laughter proof of truth. Evenings now hum with different songs, no longer chants against storm, but verses of thanks, of humour, of memory retold in gentler tones. People recount the hardest nights, the wolves, the silence, the endless white. They laugh at moments once terrifying, sharing relief in hindsight. Stories fold into memory, ready to be traded in future storms. As days pass, snow shrinks steadily. Dark soil spreads wider, patches of grass press upward, stubborn green against pale ground. Birds return, voices sharp, filling air long emptied of sound. You tilt your head and listen, marveling at their audacity to sing without fear, to declare the storm finished. Children mimic their calls, running, shouting, free of lodge's weight. One night, the last storm passes, weak and almost gentle. Snow falls lightly, melting even as it lands. By morning the world shines with water, droplets clinging to branches, soil dark as ink. It is the end, truly this time. You step outside, robe loosened, air damp and rich against skin. Breath feels fuller, chest wide. Around you others emerge, faces turned upward to sun pale but steady. The blizzard's heart has passed, winter's teeth have dulled. Kinship, labour, song, memory, all carried you through. You walk to river's edge, crouch low, scoop water in both hands. It is freezing, biting, but it tastes alive, sharper than any broth. You swallow, and for the first time in weeks, you do not fear hunger's grip. The land itself is waking, and with it, you. The slow thaw has begun. The world softens now. The storm recedes behind you, its howl fading into memory. The snow still gleams in patches, but it no longer presses heavy. Water trickles, steady, gentle. Birds call faintly. Each sound feels like reassurance, each breath like gift. You walk slowly back toward the lodge, feet sinking into wet soil instead of brittle ice. Your body is tired, every muscle stretched by weeks of endurance, yet inside your chest there is calm. You are alive, and the world is alive around you. The weight of the storm has lifted. Inside the lodge, fire burns low, steady, no longer desperate. The hides sway lightly, not from wind's rage, but from simple air moving. Children sleep deeply, their faces smooth, lips parted, breath slow. Elders murmur softly. Not with warnings now, but with thanks. You listen, and the words drift into you like warmth. You lie down, robe soft against skin, ground damp but forgiving beneath. Breath moves easily, shoulders easing, chest loosening. The silence now is not threat but comfort, the quiet of peace, not of storm. Your eyelids sink, heavy with safety. The world that raged so fiercely now fades. Snow becomes mist, shadows soften, sounds dissolve. The lodge grows dim, the fire a steady glow, heartbeat of safety. You drift with it, each breath slower, deeper, until even thoughts scatter like smoke. You're safe now, the storm is behind you, the thaw spreads gentle and wide, and as you sink into rest the world fades too, leaving only warmth, breath, stillness. Sweet dreams.